Alex Hermosi, Cody Sanchez has made buying businesses sexy. You know what we're going to do here? We're going to talk about how to buy a franchise and the franchise buying process. We, of course, have to do this with the concierge of small business lending, Bo Exting. Bo, how you doing, man? You got to love Cody and Alex. They are really, really helping you and folks see what's possible in buying businesses.
I love it. Yeah, no, it's exciting. It's exciting times right now because so many people are getting the itch to transition, and with the looming recession,
Mhm.
people want people want to take the safeness, and they want to take it into their own hands as opposed to relying on a company that they might get downsized. We've talked about back to work mandates. People don't want to go back to the office. They've already moved away, and they've been
Yeah.
enjoying it because they're getting paid their salary, but they're like able to run their side hustles and so forth. So now people are like, all right, well, they want me back in the office. I need to go do something different because I don't want to go back into the job field in the
Yeah, there's
office.
there's something that I'm really starting to play with. I'm calling it second season. It may change, but what do I mean by second season? My case, right? My first season was, a job trying to climb the corporate ladder, the 40-40 life. And there's the second season happens after financial freedom, at least in my case. I think you bring up a great kind of pivot on that I hadn't thought about. Maybe the second season for some folks is, hey, I'm going to give up the kind of, job security and downsize risk to go see what I'm all about, go buy a franchise, get in the game, kind of, live on my own or, kind of accomplish what I can accomplish. That's another way to look at it. So I think buying a franchise is interesting, but how do you buy a franchise? How does, hey, I work at XYZ tech company. I'm an engineer. AI is going to get rid of my job. I need to do something on my own. And I've always thought about X. How do we buy a franchise if that's kind of our brain, our thought process?
Sure. So we all go into biz buy sell. We all are looking at these different franchise models, and we're like, it's overwhelming. But first, I
Yeah.
think we got to break it down, and we got to go into like, what are the franchise models? We have owner operator model. That's where I'm actually out there painting the house, right? We have the what's called the semi absentee model. That's where you're working more on the business, not in the business. You might be spending anywhere from 15 to 30 hours per week in the business, and a lot of people think of this as passive, but it's not. You got to be efficient. You got to be a leader. You got to be able to train and recruit and run the business, understand P&Ls. It's not like some passive thing. Then there's what we call a passive or managed model. And quite frankly, I see the most passive you're really going to be. There's very few brands out there that are going to be truly successful managed models. Meaning, like if you're relying on somebody else and you're paying a management fee, it's not that it's improbable, but you just got to be careful. So I would say most people are looking at semi-absentee models right now, and they're understanding, look, I have my 9 to 5, but it's a hybrid model. I'm going to spend 20, 30 hours a week in this business because eventually I'm going to replace the W-2, or, I'm going to make it work with both and just crush it so I can keep buying rental properties. And then we go into, so those are kind of like the different business models. And so then we go into, the franchise matching process. The franchise matching process is really kind of an art. And that's
Mm.
what we have a team that does that. So we basically have people come in, we have an initial meeting with them, then we have them take a business assessment, which is called the Zoracle profile.
Mm.
And it talks about, are they a promoter? They have no sales skills? Are they really good executive management type of thing? So it's breaking it down. It's like a disc profile on steroids. Then we meet back again. We kind of go through everything, and we go into the different sectors. What type of business models? Of course, there's food. There's home service franchise models. There's automotive. There's like 30 different categories. We have them rank what categories they like the best. We take in consideration, of course. I take in the SBA knowledge. Okay, what's realistic? Well, you have 30 or 40 grand, period. Then we're looking at some sort of home based type of business model because you're not going to be able to afford something bigger. So we also have to take in account, how much time they can put in, how much money they have, what's their background, and we take all that together. And then what we do is I do research, or my team does research, and we come back with 7 or 8 business models. We do a presentation. From the presentation, we say, okay, pick 3 that you like. We want you to do discovery calls with each of those franchisors. And we want at least 3, because sometimes they say, well, I like this painting company the best. And then the third one that they didn't really like the best, they like the business model better, because it's not about painting houses. It's about how the business model works. And that's what you got to remember. Even if it's as an unsexy business, it doesn't matter. It's what you're doing and how you scale the business. And that's what you really should be fixated on during the process. And then we go through like,
so hold on. Let me, because I just want to kind of unwrap all the stuff that I've heard so far to make sure we're on the same page and the audience is kind of taking notes. So, I have a job, I'm either at risk or, I want to go out on my own, whatever it is. So the first thing we need to do is figure out what model works for us, i.e., are we the painter? Are we this? Are we that? So how much time are we willing to give? That's kind of decision one. Then we go through this Zoracle or disc profile going, okay, which one kind of fits me the best? Then what you're saying, once you have that, let's go get some presentations from 3 folks in that area. So I guess the question where I'm at now is, they got to, I guess out of the gate, they got to book a call with you. You're the guide, right? You're the concierge. You're walking them down the path so far. This could be a week. This could be a month at this kind of portion. Is that fair?
yeah, I tell people the same thing every time. Look, think of this as you're doing the work. You're doing the work to figure out, does business ownership make sense for you? And then you got to explore different business models. And some people can pick a business model in a couple of weeks. Some people take months and months. Some people take a year or 2. It's all okay. But if you're serious about
it's
doing
all
it,
okay. I like that. I like that.
yeah.
Okay.
My goal is to get you to say yes. My goal is to get you to at least open your mind to explore. And then at the end of the day, I say, look, if you decide not to pursue it, that's fine. I've done my job. You said,
Right.
I'm going to do something else. Or maybe
Yeah.
you come to the realization that I want to keep the job and maybe I'll do a side hustle like vending or whatever. And those are, we have, they're not franchises, they're business opportunities that we work with vending companies that actually they'll place the machines for you. And that's okay too, because we're going to couple that all with talking to a CPA that understands small business and tax advantage and what can we offset. Because I talked to so many people that make $1 million or 500 grand a W-2 and they have no tax write-offs, and like they could be 3 to 4x way higher in net worth by just doing strategy. And I don't get these people that are doing that. So that's kind of my goal as the business. I call myself business ownership coach now. I rebranded from the concierge of small, business ownership coach. So that's really
so okay. So we're in the process. They've reached out to you. You've had several calls. You've done the profile. You reviewed the profile. You've got pitch decks. It's months, 6, whatever down the line. All right, I've caught up. So we're in the process now. At some point, we got to look at financials and all of that, right?
Yeah. So basically, after our team presents to you and you say, look, Bo, we like this, and this franchise, then we set you up with discovery calls. So the first step is franchise discovery call. Step 2 is FDD delivery and review. What is an FDD? It's a franchise disclosure document. It's anywhere from 200 to 400 pages. There's a bunch of items in there. You're going to look at item 19. That's earnings claims or earnings, actually not claims, what they're disclosing. That only tells you a bit of it. And then step 3 is territory and unit economics. This is what your territory is going to look like. This is, how many people, how many households, how many, whatever unit economics they do. Step 4 is validation calls. This is where you're getting on the phone with other franchise owners in the system and you're asking them a lot of questions. We give people checklists to ask the right questions to prompt them, because this is what I think is one of the most important part, is to talk to people that own in that franchise system. Step 5 is executive call. That's where you're talking, you're moving along. You've realized, hey, I'm really interested at this point. You're talking usually of the founders. There's some group Zoom calls with the founders. And then at this point, there's a lot of steps in between, but at this point, you're ready, like, hey, I'm really interested in this franchise. I've done almost all the due diligence. At this time, you're going to go and you're going to go to Discovery Day. Now, Discovery Day could be a virtual event, but oftentimes you're flying to corporate. You're meeting the ownership team of the franchise. You're shaking hands. You're doing that thing. And keep in mind, this is a two-way street. The franchise has to be awarded, meaning if you go in there and and you put a good act on and they meet you in person and they don't think you're going to be a good fit, they will say no. It happens all the time. And I
Yeah,
just
I
want to,
think that's important for people to realize. The franchisor doesn't want to see you fail. So it behooves them to weed out people that they think will fail, right? They don't need to sell that territory to you. They want to sell to someone they think is going to profit and grow their brand. So I think it's important for people to realize just because you have the money doesn't mean you get it awarded, at least not in all cases.
yeah. And also in between there, when you're getting towards the end, we always recommend that you have a franchise attorney review your franchise agreement with the franchisor. Now, a very established franchise business model, they're not going to make many changes, but you should be aware of what's in there. So you know what you're signing, right? You're
Right.
signing, you know, now if it's an emerging franchise, meaning they don't have many locations and they're up and coming, oftentimes you can negotiate larger territories and do different things with those types of brands. But we deal with emerging brands. We deal with the big brands that are the biggest conglomerates of home service franchise models. They're billion-dollar companies, parent companies that we deal with. So they're all different walks of life. They're startup franchise companies. There's really a lot of franchises that pop up. And now, granted, not all of them are going to be successful. And you really got to understand that's where we go back to looking at the Zoracle or the business assessment. What is your risk tolerance, right? Just like in real estate, what's your risk tolerance? Are you willing to do this $1 million flip? Or are you going to stay in the $200,000 range because that's where the entry-level buyers are? You got to understand what your comfort level is and what your goals are. And that's really kind of high level of the franchise buying process.
And again, people need to be working with you. You're guiding people, all kinds of people down this path at different rates, at different speeds for different opportunities. But how do they start that? How do they reach out to you and go, "Hey, I want to ask just a couple of questions. I'm interested, but I need some help." How do they do that?
Yeah, so it's very simple. I made it very simple. OneRentalMeeting.com.
That is
Go
awesome.
there and book a
You bought
call.
a URL for us, onerentalmeeting.com. That's pretty amazing.
All
That's
right.
pretty amazing. So again, folks, how to buy a franchise, the franchise buying process. Again, go back, listen to this. Bo walked you through the process. And again, he's being kind of modest here. He will be your coach down this process. He will make sure he understands the financing and coach you on that small business lending. He is the man. Go back. He has an entire playlist on this channel. Go back, ask some questions. By the way, folks, leave questions below about franchises, about buying businesses, about vending, whatever it is. We will look at them and prepare for next week. Bo, any closing thoughts?
No, just thank you. I mean, we're always hosting events. I got to go double check that when you go to onerentalmeeting.com, you can get a list of the events we're doing. We're doing a lot of virtual events. We want to really help. Our goal is to help 10,000 aspiring entrepreneurs become successful business owners over the next 10 years. And that's maybe either one-on-one interaction or me being on the podcast. I mean, we've probably helped 10,000 people by being on your podcast because there's so many people that watch this over time, right? So I'm going to change that number eventually to 100,000 or
There you
more,
go.
right?
You just changed it right now. We're going for 100, baby. 100,000 folks. Bo, you're amazing. OneRentalMeeting.com. He bought a URL just for this audience. You're the man. Take care.
Thank you.